Blizzard built a big roster of heroes, each with intricate backstories with motivations and worldly origins, but even with all this that we're given, we are left with several big questions. Hi, I'm Alpha Lance with the Leaderboard, and here are our major Overwatch questions that still need answers. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon below to become a part of the notification squad. Let's get started. Number 1. What caused the Swiss headquarters to explode? To kick things off, let's start from the beginning of the end of Overwatch. 2 decades after Overwatch ended the Omnic Crisis, saving humanity and ushering in an unprecedented era of peace and prosperity, the Overwatch Swiss headquarters were destroyed. Jack Morrison and Gabriel Reyes were allegedly killed. Spoiler alert, they turn out to be fine, sorta. The event was investigated and dubbed an accident, with no foul play involved. But we have several reasons to believe something more serious than a gas leak was involved. Jack Morrison, as Soldier 76, tells us that Overwatch got hit from the inside and out, alleging that the explosion was caused by Overwatch's enemies. Morrison failed to mention who might be responsible though, or why they wanted to destroy the Swiss headquarters. Tensions were high in the world around this time. Before the Petrus Act came into effect, which deemed all Overwatch activities illegal, Overwatch was under a lot of pressure following the discovery of Blackwatch, charged with allegations of corruption, weapons proliferation, human rights abuses, wearing too much black, and more. Overwatch's Big Brother reputation turned sour, with many calling for Overwatch to be dismantled. Morrison and Reyes were said to be arguing over the 2 directions Overwatch was taking when the explosion happened. Many, including the pair's closest friends and family, thought they were dead. Even the 2 of them were unsure if the other survived. And now, Gabriel seems to have a grudge against Overwatch. When asked what happened to him, Reaper confesses to Ana, saying that they left me to suffer, and he did this to me. Now, they left me to become this thing. It's assumed that they here is Overwatch and the he is Jack Morrison, but we are not content with these vague terms, and sometimes the obvious answer is just to throw us off from a bigger question. So who set them up? Who destroyed the Swiss headquarters and why? Was the attack meant to destroy the heads, or did they just get in the way and happen to be in the wrong space at the wrong time? Did Overwatch really crumble from the inside, or did Talon have a mole on the inside, similar to what happened to Amelia LaCroix? Number 2. Should we miss Widowmaker's late husband? Widowmaker's backstory is a tragic and heartbreaking one. Amelia LaCroix was abducted by Talon. After an unspecified amount of time, she was rescued by Overwatch agents, but not before Talon had turned Amelia into a sleeper agent, programmed to kill her husband Gerard LaCroix. 2 weeks after her return, she completed her mission. After her husband's murdered, she was presumed kidnapped by Talon once again, but in actuality, she returned to Talon of her own free will to complete her metamorphosis from Amelia LaCroix, famous ballerina and presumed last member of the Giard family, to the cold, blue, unfeeling assassin of Talon, Widowmaker. It's a sad story, but what if we're just led to believe that Gerard is someone to be mourned? When Ana and Widowmaker are in a matchmaking lobby together, they'll occasionally exchange a quick word. Ana will say, "Gerard was a fool to love someone like you," to which Widowmaker defensively replies, "You don't know anything about him." And in fact, we know very little about Gerard LaCroix. Other than this, he was a key member of Overwatch, assigned to spearhead operations against Talon. He must have been doing his job well, as Talon attempted to assassinate him multiple times, but each time they failed. It was only then that they figured out a new way to get close to Gerard, by turning his own wife against him. As we mentioned in our previous question, Overwatch in its final years was coming under a lot of heat as news of Blackwatch emerged. We know Gerard died long before these allegations surfaced, as Widowmaker was an assassin before the end of Overwatch. While fighting a terrorist organization can be seen as a noble cause, a cause the public could maybe rally behind, these operations were likely covert ops, which is in the realm of Blackwatch's branch. Blackwatch was known for its dark reputation. Acts of torture, assassination, and more were well within their wheelhouse. Judging from the example of Jack Morrison and Gabriel Reyes, we can assume Gerard, as a key member of Overwatch, went on strikes rather than sit behind a desk. He may have been highly skilled, not only in tactics, but in combat. We only know Gerard is the victim of a tragic murder, but Amelia may have remembered him as a hardened man who who was once caring and sweet. We may never know Gerard's true nature, as little is said about him, but like many characters who have been barely talked about and are assumed dead, cough on a cough, Genji cough, who knows what his true fate may have even been, or who the next hero in Overwatch might be, which brings us to ... Number 3. Who, what, and where is Hammond? There have been many characters over the years who have been briefly mentioned only to fall through the cracks. Some have been friends, some loved ones, and even family members, whether that's family by blood or family by genetic modification. The Horizon lunar colony was a step forward for humanity after the Omnic crisis. For once, humanity had the luxury of expanding humanity's reach rather than fighting for its survival. To test the effects of prolonged habitation in space, the scientists genetically enhanced several gorillas, who eventually rebelled against and killed the colonists there. Our own monkey, or scientist, Winston, was among the few who became intelligent and even rarer, kind-hearted. After the uprising, Winston built a makeshift rocket and escaped to Earth. A year later in our time, we get to return to the Horizon lunar colony. With the map's return, we got to glimpse some of the colonists' last exchanges and some of the other monitors. From these, we learned that another specimen is also missing, named Hammond. All of our sources mention gorilla subjects, but several snapshots from the security cameras show that the specimens seem to be of varying different species of apes. In this shot, we see 2 apes about Winston's size, including specimen 26, aka Ellie, who appears to be a gorilla in an aggressive, destructive state, while in this shot, we can see 2 much smaller specimens, who appear to be a different species of simian. The upside-down specimen may be specimen 20, aka Susan, and to the left, we have what appears to be a chimpanzee with no visible number. We have no way of confirming who, if any, of these unidentified specimens is Hammond, but we do know something else about Hammond. He's a small boy. In an email from researcher Zhang to the entire station about the fact that Hammond has been missing for the last week, I mean, you'd think this would be a bigger issue, but hey, I'm no scientist, so what do I know? Zhang admits regretting in having smaller test subjects. So I ask again, what is Hammond? A juvenile gorilla? A chimpanzee, or maybe some other small ape? Who is Hammond? Did he start the rebellion? Did he fight for his own freedom from the scientists and escape before the uprising? And where is Hammond now? Do we find him on the moon, or did Hammond already make it back to Earth? We know from Winston's recall short that there are plenty of working, abandoned laboratories left from Overwatch's golden age that could be working right now. Number 4. What does Elios have to do with Overwatch? Hollywood as well, but that's not nearly as pressing. Overwatch's maps take us all around the world, and even out of the world, and each of the maps has some sort of tie-in to the character's stories or the comics, with one notable exception, Elios. Elios is located on the Aegean Sea of Greece and boasts several beautiful vistas. It's an ideal vacation spot, just don't let your kids play near the well, that is said to have been the home of several artifacts and relics that have been unearthed. And that's all we know. In the past, Blizzard occasionally gave us the chicken before the egg, like when we got Dorado before we got Sombra, but the map still had other ties to the game. Dorado was shown in the Soldier 76 cinematic, and was discussed in the reveal of Junkrat and Roadhog back when they were released before Overwatch's release. We were shown their bank heist map, which can be now found on the map Castillo, which is set above the coastal town. Even if it's just a character from the same country, every map has a tie to Overwatch's cast. So where, Blizzard, is Elios's? Are we bound to get an Overwatch hero inspired by Greek mythology? And no, Mercy's summer game skin doesn't count. Or what about a cinematic in Elios? The map is straight up gorgeous and sunny, and I'd love to see some more action on the map. Or at least maybe something akin to how often I feel like it's coming up in rotation, because seriously, I'm getting sick of this map, but I also love it. Conflicting emotions. Until then, we're just left scratching our heads as to what on earth we're doing in Elios. Later, we'll ask the same of Blizzard World, sure, but we all know that we can't take that map too seriously. Maybe our favorite junkers are up to more hijinks like they were in Hanamura's arcade. Number 5. Why does Roadhog wear a mask? To narrow our scope to a single character, there's been a question on all of our minds for so long that we may have stopped asking ourselves. What is underneath Roadhog's mask? Roadhog, real name Mako Rutledge, was part of the Australian Liberation Front that tried to take the Outback back from the Omnics after their government handed it over. Their actions led to detonating the Omnium's fusion core, which destroyed the facility, irradiating the region, and littering the Outback with twisted metal and wreckage. While the rest of the world went on to enjoy modern comforts and advanced technologies, those who stayed in the wasteland lived in an apocalyptic landscape. Water is scarce, everything is made out of of scraps, and violence is usually the answer to your problems. Mako adapted to the unforgiving environment. He donned a mask and took to the broken highways on his ramshackle chopper, slowly losing his humanity over the years. But what does adapting entail? Roadhog is a man of few words. He doesn't talk much except often to tell others that they're talking too much. He doesn't tell his backstory or even give his own opinion often. More often than not, his lines include fits of coughing or wheezing, and his whole body shudders as he breathes, as if every breath is a painful, laborious endeavor. His tank ability, Take a Breather, allows him to heal 300 health in an instant by putting a canister to his face and breathing very, almost uncomfortably deeply. He does not share this ability with anyone else. It's possible his mask is a unique design that allows him to administer his healing dose, but it's kind of doubtful. I mean, it's just looks like a gas mask, but it is different and not quite the typical gas mask you get at the store. Not that I've bought a gas mask or anything prepared for the apocalypse, that'd be crazy talk. Maybe Mako and the rest of the Australian Liberation Front used biotics in the field during the rebellion. Mako's body has developed a resistance to it, requiring him to administer higher doses for his health. Perhaps all those years spent living in an irradiated wasteland are catching up to Mako. At 48 years old, he's no spring chicken, and while modern science can help us live well beyond that, irradiation can drastically reduce your life expectancy. We may not know what's under Mako's mask, but speculation is what pushes a character from man to legend. Maybe it hides a grizzled, angry face, devoid of kindness after witnessing the fate of the world he fought so hard to liberate. Maybe a radiation accident burned away the last of his skin and the last of his humanity along with it. Maybe we'll never see Roadhog's true face, and he'll only ever be a masked killer with a soft spot for pigs and pachamaris. That is the squeaky turnips. They're just adorable. Number 6. Is Tracer immortal now, filled with eternal youth, or maybe aging twice as fast? We all know Tracer, she's the one on the box, aka Lena Oxton. She's full of wibbly wobbly timey-wimey powers that allow her to dart forward in space and rewind time. But every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So how does Lena react to her time distortions? Let's take a moment to go back over her backstory a little for maybe some clarification. Lena Oxton was an exceptional pilot, brought into Overwatch to test an experimental fighter jet, the Slipstream. The Slipstream was meant to have teleportation capabilities, probably something akin to Tracer's blink ability. The prototype did what prototypes do best, failed to work as intended, and Lena disappeared out of space before reappearing months later. No one knows where she went, not even Lena herself. Even after Overwatch found her, she was constantly unable to interact with physical objects and would frequently disappear again, sometimes for hours and sometimes for days. If Lena wasn't able to interact with physical items or hold a physical form, it stands to reason that she didn't need food or water during her disappearance, which means her body went into some form of stasis while she was gone, or simply stopped existing. Perhaps when she disappeared, she was simply traveling forward in time to the next moment she would form. Perhaps her body and mind were being flung forward until Winston finally created the chronal accelerator to anchor Tracer to the present. Now, as long as Tracer is within a certain distance of her chronal accelerator, she will remain present and tangible, and as long as the device is powered, it will glow a bright blue, that's gotta be annoying to sleep near, and allows her to speed up and slow down her time at will. For the last 7 years, Lena Oxton has been traveling the world, righting wrongs and fighting the good fight wherever the opportunity presents itself. That means that for the last 7 years, Lena Oxton has been messing with her own timeline, taking herself back and forth, speeding time up and slowing it down. So how does time travel work in the world of Overwatch? And more importantly, how does chronal disassociation affect your biological systems in the long term? Time travel is always a tricky subject in science fiction, as you can often manipulate it to whatever meets your needs for the plot. But then, what will Overwatch's plot require of Lena Oxton? Will Lena Oxton live as normal a life as possible, or did her time as a living ghost freeze her in her 20s? Eternal youth would be seen as a gift by many, but watching the world go by can be a sad and lonely fate. Or maybe time is like a rubber band. The more Tracer pulls on her timeline and the more she plays with it, the tenser it becomes, until it inevitably snaps, speeding her timeline up to make up for lost time. That's it for our major Overwatch questions that still need answers. Knowing Blizzard, if they do finally answer these questions, they'll just drop a few new ones to keep us up at night, and I guess we'll have another video. Once again, I'm your host, Alphalands. What'd you guys think? Anything that's been bothering you that we didn't have up here? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to hit that bell icon to become a part of the notification squad. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Leaderboard, your home for video game facts.